Okay, everybody, thank you for coming. Wednesday night meditation. How many new people do we have here, just a show of hands? Okay, wonderful. I won't assume that you're new to meditation or anything like that, although I do want to do something kind of different. We don't do it here very often, but I want to talk about the basics of meditation and kind of go from there, kind of build up from there. First of all, if somebody, from a teacher standpoint, meditation teacher, we have some teachers here, I know, but how many times have you heard somebody say that they don't meditate every day because they don't have time, you know? And I mean, it's just, you know, it's one of those things, but even if we look at the possibility of meditating, 5 or 10 minutes a day, we can certainly fit that into our daily routine. And the reason I say that is because I'm a real strong believer in the magic of consistency, in the practice of meditation, to do it every day. And if we do it every day, we see the benefits. It just becomes a part of our life. It's just like brushing our teeth. We don't think about it much, we just do it. It's just a part of who we are. So I think it's just like anything else. If we're learning a new language, some of you might be very linguistic. If you're learning a new language, to study every day and actually to use it every day, and after a while you're speaking the language, you're not even thinking about it. I think it's true, and like when we learn a musical instrument or anything like that, if we do it on a consistent basis, it really, really does make it a part of our lives. And that's when meditation really takes hold and really, really helps us out. And sometimes it's so gradual that we don't notice the change in us, but our friends and family members do. They'll say, "There's something different about you," or you seem a little less tense than you used to be, or these different things come up, and it's all from the practice. So there's a couple of things with the practice, primarily a posture, the place where we practice, the meditation object, and some of the tools that are a part of the practice that I wanted to talk about before we do our meditation, and then we can talk about them. So first of all, the place to meditate, and we could start there. If we're going to do it consistently, we should have a place. Some of them can be very imaginative, I guess you could say. I had a friend that converted his closet into kind of a shrine. He had a 2-bedroom home, and he lived in it by himself, so he had a whole closet that he turned into a meditation room, and it was pretty cool, and it was pretty quiet in there too, because the closets are seemingly always in the middle of the house, so you don't get that street noise. If there's clothes in there, actually, the more clothes in there, the quieter it is. So we can come up with these wonderful little places. If we're in a busy home, a lot of times we're lucky to find a corner, that we can kind of set up, and we might have our place. When most of us, when I talk about a consistent practice, everybody's probably got that place in their mind where they go to, I hope. If not, you should come up with something, have something available. Some people have several places in their house, maybe something outside in the garden as well. It's always nice to meditate outside, mix it up a little bit. I used to meditate in my car. I did that for a couple of years, and it really strengthened my practice a lot. I was commuting from, I was living in Wisconsin at the time, and I was commuting from one area where I lived coming into work, but I'd always bring my lunch, and then when I had my 1-hour lunch break, I would take my lunch to a park and eat my lunch, and then I would meditate for about 45 minutes. And I did that every day, 5 or 6 days a week anyway, while I was working there. And it really, I think that's one of the first, when I really understood the importance of consistency at that point in the practice was meditating in my car. So a lot of people say, "Oh, again, I don't have time to meditate, but meditate in your car on a break. If you have that routine job that you go from 9 to 5 or whatever it is, surely you have a break in there. Just go in your car and meditate. It can be very, very refreshing in the middle of the afternoon to do that, in the middle of the work day. So the place is very important. In that place, you can have, we'll talk about tools and cushions in a moment. But posture in the meditation, whether, obviously when you're sitting in a car, you're sitting, like in a chair or in a bench, this car seat. Some people like to sit on the floor. Some people might sit on something like this, where you're seemingly cross-legged, but you're not on the floor. And then some people sit in chairs, and that all of it's fine. The main thing is that we don't move much because we're stirring things up. When we find our posture, we want to make sure that it's comfortable, or as comfortable as we can get. And if we practice consistently, it'll feel very natural after a while. When we first start to meditate, I have to admit it does feel kind of strange to be sitting in some kind of a posture that we're not used to, or to be able to even be sitting in a chair with the intention of not moving. It seems strange at first, but after a while it becomes, a real part of the practice. And so we want things we don't want to stir things up. We want things to settle down. We want things to, to mentally and physically be very still as possible. Every time we move the body, it's like shaking up that glass full of muddy water, and it's hard to have that clarity. But if we let things settle, the mud, settles, and there's some cushions there, and then everything works out. So we find nice posture, very little shifting and moving around. And we want to preferably have our back fairly straight to keep the breathing, primarily the energy flowing up and down the body, but also for the breathing. If we cave in like this, it might be comfortable for a while, but actually we can find that we're trying to hold some muscles are trying to hold ourselves up. So we want to feel balanced, which usually means a fairly straight back. The chin lifted a little bit, or some people say tucked, bringing the chin back like this. If our head drops, then our neck drops and our shoulders drop and everything drops, right? So we want to, keep that balanced feel. And usually I tell people they can place their hands wherever they like. Usually that means on the knees or folded in their, like this in front of them. Sometimes people do different things, cross the fingers like that. And to me, it really doesn't matter. I'm not really a fan of different kinds of mudras or anything like that. But some people, they just feel better when they do that. So it's kind of personal choice, right? As far as sitting, there are different ways to cross the legs, or to have the legs when you're sitting on the floor. What I'm doing here is called Burmese style, where one ankle is in front of the other. And these names just came up, I don't know, through the ages, I guess. This is actually called American Indian style. Somebody came up with that name, where the legs are crossed. And this isn't very good for sitting for long durations, because you're actually, cutting off the circulation a little bit. But it can be comfortable for a lot of people for shorter meditation sits. And they just sit down and they just naturally sit like that. I've seen a lot of children sit like that. I've seen monks sit like that too. And then there's half lotus, like where the leg is like something like this. Most of the Buddhist statues are half lotus, but it's documented that the Buddha sat in what is called today called full lotus, and that is where the pretty much that kind of thing where both, I can't do it with my legs, so I'll do it with my arms, where the feet are both up. So it'd be like this, and then this foot would come through here like that. But I'm not going to rack up my knees just to try to show something like that. So those are different things that you can do with your legs as far as posture goes, and it's just awareness. It's just being aware that there's different possibilities, different ways to sit. So whatever's the comfort is the big thing. Totally, be comfortable, because you want to sit for 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, without moving around too much. Eventually, for longer sits. A little bit about the meditation object. Usually I point people to the breath, using the breath as a meditation object. The meditation object should be something that we can know that it's there, we can focus on it, but when our focus is gone, it's still a part of the practice, but our attention is off of it, and then we can quickly come back to that thing. So our meditation object should be stable, but it should be something that we can make interesting, is that is there all the time, and usually something that's functional, and that the breath encompasses all of that. Now, some people use other things with their eyes closed. They might use light patterns and different textures, that they see with the light, the mind objects, with the eyes closed, and anything that tells you whether you're concentrated or not. So if we used a sign with our eyes closed, let's say I'm seeing a green light, but it doesn't come unless I'm absolutely in the present and still, and all of a sudden this green light comes up for me, and I know that I can use that, because when I'm concentrated, it's there. But if I would hear a loud sound, for example, that light would be gone. So that could actually work as a meditation object. In the same way with the breath, if I use the breath, let's say I'm using the sensation of the breath and I feel it against the nose or the upper lip or something like that, where the breath connects with the body, that sensation of the breath touches the body, and I can feel that and I know it's there, but my mind drifts off and I don't feel that sensation. And then all of a sudden I realize, my mind is someplace else, and I can bring it right back to that feeling, that sensation again. And, some people use sounds, for their meditation object. If the trouble with sounds is that it should be a very consistent sound. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to use something that can kind of point out how sounds can work for us. And so meditation objects are the object of focus, the object of concentration. Most of us know that. And most of us, if we've been meditating for a while, know our object pretty well. And it's important. We should be friends with it. It should be our buddy. And that kind of brings us to the meditation tools. If we have our place at home, our little corner in our living room or a bedroom or something like that, the best thing we can do is ideally have a zabuton, like we have here, and a nice comfortable cushion, some cushion that we're familiar with. And that would be our place. We don't want to have to sit and think of, where am I going to meditate and what am I going to use to sit on and all that stuff, and spend 15 minutes getting ready. We want to be able to just go to that meditation place and sit down. So tools could be a cushion, it could be our chair, it could be a meditation bench or something like this. It could be, maybe we want to journal a little bit after our meditation, so we might have a journal there with a pen or pencil next to it. We might use a timer. We might use our phone in certain ways as a timer, and we might use maybe some of the apps that are available out there. And that's what I'm kind of getting at here. Some other tools that you might want to consider is like a shawl. Sometimes, especially this time of year, if we put a shawl over ourselves, that warmth can really point out that feeling of security for us, and that can be really nice sometimes. I have a tendency to sometimes use a shawl in the wintertime, but especially when I'm on retreat, but not in the Arizona summer. It's too hot. But a little bit about apps, and isn't that nice? Meditation learns that.
It's gone.
Whoops. There we go. A little bit about meditation apps and how I usually use them. It's kind of the app that I often use, I use it as a timer, and that's an Insight Timer. And how many people are familiar with Insight Timer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Insight Timer is, I think, the largest meditation app out there. And it's pretty handy that it keeps score for you, sort of. I mean, it tells you, how well you're doing with your meditation. And I don't use that aspect of it because most of the meditation I do half of it is with a group like this, and I'm not going to pull out my timer and try to keep score, that I'm meditating with people. But like when Terry and I are meditating in the morning, we use this app. On the app itself, there's thousands and thousands of guided meditations and spiritual talks and everything. I suggest that a person generally not get too involved with guided meditations unless you're new to meditation, like really new to it, because it does really allow a person to settle into their posture and become comfortable. But I think the power in meditation is the silent aspect. And usually if somebody would come here and we sit in the other room, like they're brand new to meditation, they want to learn about meditation, and they do that. I mean, this is part of what I do here at the center. We sit in this room here, and they want me to explain meditation to them, and a lot of what I'll go through is what I'm talking about right now, actually. And then we'll sit in meditation, and I'll record a meditation for them. I'll do a guided meditation talking about probably some of the aspects, and encourage them to bring their attention to the breath, encourage them to, how to use the breath to focus on different aspects of the breath, the inhalation or the exhalation, or maybe to count the breaths, that type of thing. And then remind them to come back to the breath when their attention has drifted away, and these types of things. And then, so I'll do that guided meditation for about 10 minutes, and then I'll leave about 10 minutes of silence. And then I'll ask them to work with that recording. I'll send it to their phone and ask them to, use some earbuds and work with that recording. And the reason I do that is because there's the guided aspect, but then that silence. So through the guiding, they're kind of listening to everything, and they're getting settled in, and they know there's about 10 minutes left for the quiet, silent part. And I think that's, again, the most valuable. So when we use this app, or when I use it, it's mostly just the aspect of silence. And except for there's some ambient sound that is an option on this app. And what I really like the sound of running water, like a stream. And this is actually called Eternal Stream. And so it does two things. It drowns out the background noise, and it also, you can use it. I mean, it's very soothing for myself. And some people actually use that sound for their meditation object. They listen to the sound when their attention drifts off. The sound is still there, but it's in the background. They go, oh, I got to come back and get more grounded, and they come back auditorily and pick up the sound again. I don't always do that, but I do that to a certain extent. For the most part, I will, focus on my breath, and then after a while, just rest in that stillness, that presence. And so I'm going to set this for. I'll set this for 30 minutes, and I have this set up like when I do a typical meditation, I'll ring the bell 3 times to start and 3 times to end. That's how I have this set up at the moment, and I'll keep that. So what I like to do, we'll do meditation the way that, basically the way that Terry and I do it in the morning. Duration here, we'll do 30 minutes. And no interval bells. The ambient sound will be eternal stream. And the ending bell and the beginning bell will be 3 times. And so you'll get an idea of the app. And the reason I bring this up is because I actually think the Buddha would be using this if he would have had one. I really do. And the reason I say that is because my teacher Bhante Gudarantana uses it. I remember he had his phone, and he was showing it to me. He was so excited, and I didn't have the heart to say, I use that all the time, Bhante. But he was saying, this is the neatest thing, And actually, one time we were doing a retreat. He said, okay, and he grabbed his phone and he set it up, and he set his phone down, and I never seen a teacher do that before, especially somebody in their 80s, Typically, what I would do is I would be guiding this group for about 10 or 15 minutes. But in this case, I think we'll just sit in silence for 30 minutes, and then we'll afterwards we'll talk about it and see if there's any comments. Okay. So again, if you're fairly new to meditation, be focusing on the breath. When your attention wanders off, bring it back to the breath. And the breath can mean that sensation of where the breath touches the body or where it caresses the body. It could also mean focusing on different aspects of the breath, the top of the inhalation, the bottom of the inhalation, the middle of the breath. It might even mean counting the breaths, counting up to 100, or maybe even backwards. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed the eternal stream. I don't know if you ever tried that kind of thing before. It's the first time we ever did anything like this. We've been doing this for over 9 years on Wednesday nights, and it's the first time we ever used an app, I think, for the meditation. So it was kind of interesting. It was really, really calming for me because I'm used to that, and every morning I use that. So it was like sitting at home, so very comfortable. One of the things that we didn't talk about were like the benefits of meditation. When you talk about the basics of meditation, you usually talk about usually talk about the history of meditation and how it came about and why it's used, but you often always talk about the benefits. And we all probably know that it's very healing, both physically and mentally. There's different ways that it does that. It calms us, from a psychological standpoint. We become very present. We become still physically and emotionally, very, very quiet inside. Hopefully, the thoughts of the past and the future subside somewhat, maybe for all of us, all together, and we just rest in this stillness, presence, and that's where the healing comes in. If we would measure the neuron activity, I think a lot of us would find that we are, producing more alpha brain waves than we were previously. Before we meditated, we're probably producing more beta brain waves. Yeah, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Are these sets of brain waves that we have. And when we're in alpha, it's more of a quietness for us, and it's very easy for us to get in that and show it on an EEG, for example. To sustain it is not always easy, but we can drop in there, and we can even feel it, when we're very quiet and very serene, and we can feel when we drop into that place. But there's lots of benefits, both physical and mental. And I would like to challenge everybody here and have everybody mention one of the benefits of meditation without copying anybody. And it shouldn't be too hard. What's the deal with you?
Oh, I don't know. I thought you were just looking for volunteers.
Oh, no, we're gonna get everybody. You'll since you're you'll be second, because I'm going to start with this young lady here. No, I'm picking on you.
The benefits of meditation
Just
is
calming. Calming is very calming. That could be physical or mental.
It is.
Yeah. It's calming.
Increased mindfulness off the cushion.
Increased mindfulness off the cushion. Yeah, very important. If meditation was only beneficial while we're on the cushion, probably wouldn't even be teaching it. Although it's nice and it's nice to do it, but the benefits are seen off the cushion. Meditation enriches our lives, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to benefit us not only here, but when we walk out that door and go out into the world. That's where the true test is. And yeah, I'll talk more about that later maybe, but
I would say it helps me not think about bad thoughts instead of, I'll think a bad thought before and I would always follow it for hours and hours and hours, and now I kind of catch it and I cut it off.
You catch it, yeah. A part of mindfulness, I guess. But you're aware of any kind of negativity and
Something that might have made me depressed before or something, I'll just notice it and I'll be like, okay, I don't have to think about that. I can move on to the next thought.
Yeah, increased awareness, I guess we could say, in many ways. Yeah, it's good.
I would say better rest, both in the center of the self and sleeping.
And what?
And to sleep.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Not meditating to sleep, but later on.
Yeah.
I know it's better rest.
Yeah. That was a big topic today. I was visiting my father, and he was talking about how he couldn't sleep for the last couple of days, and 94 years old, and that can, some people develop these situations. They have trouble sleeping, and so I gave him a couple of lessons in meditation and fell right to sleep. No, I didn't, but...
It was a quick study.
Yeah, then I just gave him a bunch of medication. No, not really. Sort of, but not really.
For me, it's a more an organic and sustainable, I don't know, happiness. I don't know if I want to call it happiness, no matter what is going on around me, even if I find myself in a bad situation or with people that are trying to be chaotic, there's this inner peace or happiness. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
I can go back to that immediately and anchor myself rather than get carried away with where I find myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a teacher, I remember there was a big group of us, and she said, what is the measurement? How do you know, she said, how do you know meditation is working for you? And a lot of people had trouble coming up with the answer, but the answer she was looking for is that you become happier. You become happier. If meditation is working, you become a happier person through peace of mind or, joy, inner joy, and it because it is inside, comes from inside. We start to realize that. You okay?
I've been replaced.
Good thing you got that wall there. We start to realize that the joy is not found in material things; it's from inside. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I would say stillness. Being able, similar, different word.
Yeah.
Happiness, but definitely being able to be still in the chaos of the world. Be able to recognize the lack of stillness around you, and to be able to just kind of control your environment, control you.
Yeah. When you said that, I was thinking there's this video, I think, on YouTube of this. I think it must be in Tokyo or something. And the Japanese guy, he's got his hat on. He's a monk, and he's walking through the street really, really slow. And everything around him is just buzzing, going by really, really fast. And that's the premise of the video. It's like he's got this stillness, and he's got this inner stillness, and it shows, in the video. Yeah, great, thank you.
I would say the ability to maintain your resolve. You set a path or a course you want to go through in life where you're trying to understand yourself better, and what you need and the direction you need to go, and being able to consistently maintain that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a part of insight. The insight that arises. Meditation help us find our purpose. And we have some direction. Yeah, very good.
I am able to focus and just push away all the minutia and focus on what it is.
What's that word?
Minutia.
Oh, I like that, minutia.
The things that are unimportant.
Yeah.
And just focus on what's important, which is staying in the moment, being present, whatever task you're doing.
Yeah.
Whether it's giving the dogs a bath, driving to work, working, just staying present right there.
Yep. presence. Yeah, it's all in one word, presence. Yeah.
Say stress relief, way to manage that, day-to-day things, work, life. It's a
Yeah.
great way at the end of the day to just kind of let it go.
Yeah. Chill.
That's right.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
For me, definitely deepens my connection to source.
Say it again, I'm having trouble.
It deepens my connection to source
Mhm.
energy.
Yeah.
Then, you know, the divine energies.
Yeah.
Kind of makes my human experience more pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of signs and little posters that say, be a good human. Yeah, have you seen those? Yeah, I think, yeah.
Control. You get to be in charge of how you want to perceive things, how you want to relax, calm, and that's at your control.
Mhm.
You're able to set how that's going to work for you.
Control, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, our world is really our projection of it. You know, how what we project out is really what we are, you know, what we see. So that brings about control. And I think meditation does allow that, yeah. It really helps in that area.
This is only my second time, so I'm looking forward to all these things happening. Just relaxing
Yeah,
is what I found. Just like this is just the second time I've meditated.
yeah.
Wow. Well.
Yeah, that's good. The you know, a lot of time meditation allows us to become sensitive to the body in many ways. Like if we realize that we're sitting, and if we are not aware of the body, we could be really tense. You know, we could be really tense within the body and sit here for a long time, but we would wear out. But meditation a lot of times allows us to become sensitive to that, so we loosen up. You know, we can relax more, physically and mentally, actually. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Joe.
Jeez, I don't know. I'm still trying to work it out. No. Short list. You know, impulse behavior control, responding to the world more than reacting. Not taking it so personal, but by doing that, more deep and enriching, to be able to observe all kinds of things with a degree of loving detachment and a degree of compassion and increased feelings of love and joy.
Wonderful. Good. That's all?
Well, yeah, and also it's great for me, you know, to prevent suicide, homicide, and/or genocide.
There you go. That's the key right there. That's the biggie. Yeah.
I'm glad you're meditating.
Glad you're here.
I would like to say thank you for meditating. I think I'm just much more centered.
Yeah.
And calm.
Yeah. It is a practice of centering. Yeah. There's Zen. There's a book called Zen. Yeah, Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. And on the back of it, of that book, there's I think 100 and I don't know how many 130 ways to center. You know, the centering practice, which is meditation. You know, different ways to center. So it you know, is pointing out that meditation is just a practice of centering. You know, becoming balanced, I guess you could say, and that centering and balance, all these words come up again and again as far as, you know, being as far as in Buddhism, as far as the path goes, is very important to you know, find that balance and find that centering and Yeah, it's very good. Thank you.
I think there's an opening of the heart that
Mhm.
occurs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a biggie. We did a couple forms of metta. We did, this metta, loving kindness, and then metta for a closure, which is an opening of the heart. And like I said earlier, meditation allows us to become more sensitive, and that's a big part of it right there. Opening of the heart, it's like an indication, like we're like this, allowing, accepting, opening.
I liked the be a good human. That reminded me of the bumper sticker. Try to be the person that your dog thinks you are.
Yeah.
As far as for me, it lets me identify with my thoughts less. It's not an absolute. But so rather than just being my thoughts all day long, I can be aware of them and make fun of them or make fun of them or whatever. But also you mentioned, awareness of physical sensations, because boy, I could ignore my body for days without having any idea until I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Something was wrong, So,
Yeah.
so increased awareness.
Yeah. It works, it works several different ways. When we go into concentration, like deeper concentration, usually the first thing that goes is the body, We don't have that body awareness. Then we can sit for long periods of time, but on the other spectrum, we can use it for body awareness of mind and body, as far as being sensitive to all of that. And it's funny, some people are more sensitive to the body than others. When I meditate, the body just isn't really much of anything. I might notice some grumbling in the stomach now and then or something like that, but I don't really notice much in the body. But then if I do a body scan, that really improves my awareness of the body. I notice whether there's any tension in the shoulders and, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Well, thank you everybody for, nobody repeated anything really. I mean, it was just, different aspects of meditation. And, the benefits are huge, and we could go on and on and on about, the cortisol levels lowering and what happens to the respiration and the blood pressure, very technical, scientific, physical aspects. And we could also be looking at the subconscious mind and how insight arises, from these buried things or suppressed or repressed emotions and thoughts and everything, inside that are stored within the subconscious mind and how they come up. It's aha moments. And, there's just so many different things that we could talk about as far as benefits. But the biggest, I think one of the biggest benefits, in a nutshell, is that we begin to understand ourselves at a deeper level, understand this. We understand ultimately where happiness, our happiness comes from and our peace of mind comes from. And it comes from, as most meditators would agree, it comes from, from inside, not out there in the physical world. Everything out here is just borrowed. It's just something that we play with. It's like, this is like the sandbox, and we have these relationships, and we have these houses and these cars and these other, these streets and other cities and other countries, and it's all wonderful, and we should be able to enjoy that and take part in that. But that's not really, that's not really who we are, and we find that, when we are, for example, when we're not feeling well, we're not feeling well, and maybe lying in bed. We don't care about any of that stuff out there. And the one thing about being sick is when we feel better, it's like, wow, this is great. You know, that's the only good thing about being sick. But it just kind of proves to ourselves again and again, you know, how important it is, you know, inside and what is happening here at home. And that's actually there was a committee, I can't remember what they were. There was a big organization came together. It was like a mindfulness meditation meeting, and they were trying to find a simple way to describe in a few words, like one phrase, what meditation really meant for people, what it really was for people. And they broke into these groups, and they spent like a whole afternoon coming up with different, you know, scientific ways to explain it, and different things to, you know, the benefits and you know how it relates to concentration and insight and, you know, all this stuff. And then one person, you know, and they reported their findings, and one person said that he just simply said meditation is like coming home. And everybody looked at each other and said, yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. So it's like coming home, you know, especially if your home is nice and clean and you like your home, you know. So it's very coming home to this, you know, the heart. And like Anne-Marie said, the opening of the heart. So it's very, very wonderful practice. We have a one-day retreat coming up on the 16th of February. There's still room in that. The May Memorial Day weekend retreat is all set up. You can register for that if you like. People are registering for that. I don't know, what else we got? Just check out the calendar, you know, on Meditation Learning Center, and you'll see all the different things that are coming up. If you have any questions about any of that, just get a hold of me. So thank you all for coming, and we'll for sure see you next week, right? Thank you.